Alright guys, you guys are going to learn about how to make text in After Effects. It is really straightforward. There's nothing too sophisticated about it. So we're just going to go ahead and get started with opening it up. So go to your Launchpad and you're opening up After Effects. And like I've been telling you guys, After Effects is used for a lot of different things. There's a way to animate graphics that you've created. You can put special effects into your videos, and you can create text effects, among many other things. Okay. For right now, all I'm going to do today is teach you how to put text in your videos, how to create text and how to animate it. It's really not very difficult. When you open up After Effects, it's going to look like this, like very similar to Premiere. If you have any recent projects, that'll show up over here. Since you haven't done anything yet, you're going to click on New Composition. And up pops this window. For the most part, we're going to stay with all the default settings. You just have to give it a name. In this case, it could be, your name and then title screen for your how-to video. Everybody's going to create a title screen and an end screen, so it's up to you how you do that and what you create. If you look down here, it's going to be that width and that height, 1920 by 1080. Those are pixels, and then the time will start at 0, and then right now the duration is 30 seconds. But if you're not really going to need 30 seconds for this because it's just text, it's just a title screen, so I'm just going to change that to 10. And then the background color can be black. We can change that later. So just change the duration to 10 seconds. Make sure it's 10 seconds. These are frames right here. These are seconds. These are minutes. And these are hours. So just make sure it's 10 seconds and then click OK. Alright, so here's the interface. It looks, some components of it are similar to Premiere, but they're not all the same. Over here is your project pane. This will include any videos that you might import. Anything that you create or import will be over here. Your composition is where you'll actually see what you're creating. And then these panels over here will change depending on what you're doing. But right now there's the effects and presets. And what I really learned with After Effects is you just kind of have to play with it and you'll see what everything does. And I looked at tutorials online and found a lot of different helpful things there. And then down here is your timeline. This is just like in Premiere. There are some new buttons, obviously, that you won't learn today. And then there's some tools that you're not going to learn today. Most of them you won't learn today. Some of them you will. So we're starting with a blank canvas. So the first thing that you always have to do in After Effects is create a composition. It looks like we already did that, but we actually didn't. So you're going to click on, I'm sorry, you're not going to do a new composition. You're going to do a new layer. I'm sorry. So you'll go to Layer. And I'll teach you about layers eventually. Since I'm trying to keep this simple, I'm just going to do basic layering. So since we're doing text, we're going to do a text layer, and we're also going to do a solid layer. I create my text first and then make my background after, because when I'm creating text, I like to figure out what I want the look to be, and then I make the background. So we're just going to do text first. So just go to Layer, New, and then click on Text. Alright, and you'll see down in the timeline that we have a text layer. And you just type your text, whatever you want it to be. So alright, your font might be different, and that's okay because we can change it. If you look over here, I'm going to highlight that. I just triple clicked on it. I'm going to highlight that, and then over here you see all of your different fonts that you can have. You can start at the beginning, and if this is selected, see how there's a yellow line around it, around the font? If that is selected like that, you can just press the down arrow key on your keyboard and scroll through them. It's a lot faster than coming over here and clicking. Coming over here again and clicking. So it just saves a little bit of time just by pressing the down arrow key until you find the font that you like. Okay, I'm just going to pick a random one because it doesn't matter for this. So that's fonts. The font style is here. Some of the fonts have bold, some of them have bold italic like this, but it just depends on the font that you choose. It really varies. Right here is where you can change the size. This is very similar to Premiere. All this stuff is very similar to Premiere. So if you click on the actual number and drag it up, it makes it bigger. Left makes it smaller. I'm going to make it a little bigger. And then there are any number of things that you can change. Play with that, figure it out. If you have questions, ask me when I'm back. You'll also see that there's a centering, left justify, right justify. There's all kinds of stuff. So just play around with it. You can also change the color. If you click on this big square right here, if you put your cursor over it, it says fill color. You can click on that, and you can change it to any color that you want just by clicking and dragging these two arrows or two triangles, and then clicking in there. You can change the color to whatever you want it to be, and you can move this window out of the way and see what it looks like. So I'm just going to click that. I don't care. Okay. You can also choose a stroke color. Stroke is the border around the font or the lettering. See, I changed it to red, and you can barely see it. You can change it. You can change the thickness of that. So let's say I want that. I click OK. And right here is the stroke width. See, I can change it. I don't want to because that's very ugly. But if you don't want that, you can just click and drag that back down to 0. Or you can just change that to black. That would work too. Oh, I have to select it. Sorry. Okay. So again, play with those. See what you want. Now, as far as animating it, it's very, very easy. Over here, you see that there's a character tab. There's also an effects and presets tab. Now we want to animate, so we're going to go to the animation presets, and you'll see there are a lot of different options. You'll eventually learn how to use those options, but for right now, we're just figuring out text. So if you look at this, you have lots and lots of different options for text, just for text. There is a way for you to preview what these actually do. If I click on 3D text, there is a way to preview what these things do, but for right now, I'm just going to keep it simple. And I'm going to show you guys how to add them and then take them away so you can see what they do. So let's pretend I just want this one. What I'm going to do is click on it and drag it over and drop it onto the text. And it disappears because it's going to animate. So if you click on the on the playhead, you can drag it and see what it does. Okay, I can play it. And that's what it does. This is not a fancy one by any stretch of the imagination, but you can see what it does. Okay, if you don't like it, just do Command Z and go to the next one. And again, there is a better way to do this. I just don't want to complicate things today for you guys. I just kind of want you to play around and see what things do. Okay, so I took that one off. I did Command Z. I'm going to go back here. And you can see what they all do. Okay, nothing fancy about that. Just pick which one you like. Some of them, eventually, I'll show you guys how you can change some things about them. But for the most part, they're all pretty standard. You know, see, I dragged this one over. Ooh, I dragged this one over, and this is what it does. There are some settings over here in the effects tab that I could change if I wanted to. Some of them have that, some of them don't. So just kind of pick one that you like for now, just to play with it. Oh, okay. All right, so let's pretend I like that. That was jarring, but let's pretend I like that. And I want to add a background now. You don't have to add a background, but it makes it look a little bit fancier. So we're going to do that in a separate layer. So we're going to go to Layer, New, and then Solid. It doesn't really matter what the color is, and it doesn't really matter what the name is. Right now we're only dealing with 2 layers, so it's not that difficult. But if you ever wanted to change the color, just make it a plain color. Right down where it says color, you change it to whatever you want. Okay. Now you'll see that that covered up my text. I don't want that, and that's because this layer, this solid layer, is on top of my text layer. I don't want that, so all I'm going to do is click on it. You can click anywhere in that layer, click on it, and drag it down. Okay, so I did that in the timeline. Okay, I could switch it if I wanted to too. Okay, you can move any layers that you create. You can move them anywhere, but since there are only 2, I'm just going to move it under it. So now the text layer is on top of the background layer. All right, and going back over to effects and presets at the beginning of the list, you'll see backgrounds. Again, if you play around with this, you might be able to find some other things. I found some interesting things in the Image Creative drop-down menu, but since we're doing simple stuff, the backgrounds will work. Let's say, for instance, I'm sick right now, so I want to pick germs. There are the germs, okay? And over here in the effects controls tab, you'll see that there are a bunch of different things that are kind of confusing. It's got all kinds of different details in there that you won't understand, and that's okay. Sometimes there are things that make it easy for you to change them because you can tell what they mean. This one, I don't see anything right off the bat that I know I would want to change. So I'm going to undo that and find something else. Infection. I think I might see something in here that would work. This one's not that fun. But you see over here that you can change some things. So, okay, here we go. I want to change the color. So if you scroll, if you're in the effect controls tab, you might be able to change some things. If you just play around with stuff, you're not going to break anything. The worst that could happen is you have to undo it or take it off and start fresh. It doesn't matter. So if I wanted to change this from this sort of maroonish, I don't know, blush color to red, I could just do that and click OK. If I wanted these to be white, oof. You know, you can change some things around. If you don't like it, click cancel. Okay. If you decide that you don't like an effect and you can't undo it, you can't do just Command Z or step backward, you can also in the effect controls tab see this little FX control right here. You can just click on that and it just takes it off. So it's not there anymore. You can also click on the actual name and press delete, but that takes a little longer because some of these have multiple effects under them. So it's just easier to turn it off. And that is that as far as, you know, adding what I want you guys to do is just play with it. When you're done with it, just save it like you always do. So you'll just go to File, Save As, and make sure it's saved in the right place. Right now that would go to my Documents folder. That's not where I want it to go. So just make sure you know where you're saving it. It should be in your desktop under a how-to video folder or something like that. And again, everybody needs a title screen and an end screen. What you put on those things is completely up to you and your group. If you're working alone, then obviously it's completely up to you. But everybody needs to create one of each. And that's about it. Just save it, and then I'll show you eventually how to put it into Premiere. And if you didn't catch, just one last thing. When you play, when you click down here and play it just like you do in Premiere, because it's rendering an effect, it'll go a little bit slower the first time. See this green line? It's rendering as it plays. So the first time you play it, it's going to play a little slow. That's why I just drag the playhead to see what the effects are. But now that it's rendered that, when I play it, it plays in real time. All right. So save what you're working on as you go, and that is it. Have fun.